Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm very excited about today's video. I was able to reach out to a young lady on Instagram, Dr. Shonna, and she's a first year resident studying to become an anesthesiologist. I thought it would be a good idea for her and I to just chit chat about the profession of anesthesia so that you guys will know the different roles that we play in this profession. So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned.
I'm Shonna. If you don't know me, I am currently in my second year of residency, which is my first year of anesthesia residency, and I won't explain that right now. I will have a video that explains what that means. But anyway, I went to the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston Medical School, also known as McGovern Medical School. That's where I completed my medical education, and I also attended Texas Southern University for my undergrad. I majored in biology.
Okay, so today we're going to ask some questions to give you guys an understanding of the difference between the role of a CRNA, their schooling, and also how we both work together in the same profession. So we're going to start off by asking Shonna, what made you want to become an anesthesiologist?
I never really grew up wanting to become a doctor, period. It's not something that I thought that I could actually do, or not something I was used to seeing in my environment, so it wasn't necessarily a goal of mine. I fell into an opportunity where I could go to med school. Everything ended up working out. I initially started med school wanting to be a OB-GYN, and I still love women's health. But supportive the anesthesia community was to my pregnancy and my needs. I was able to, stay calm and relax. It was really good for me. Not inducing, early labor because of stress. And so once I did my OB-GYN rotation and I saw how hectic it is, like the call hours are crazy. I had already had my baby when I did my OB-GYN rotation, and she was about 1 or 2 months. And I literally spent the entire 6 weeks of that rotation pretty much not seeing her at all. I wasn't down for all that. So I was like, well, anesthesia it is. That's pretty much how I chose.
And decided to go CRNA route because same thing as you as far as hectic hours. Nurse practitioners work all the time. They chart at the hours. They're on call. They work weekends. Listen, that wasn't for me. I don't have children now, but I do plan to have kids, and I want to enjoy my children.
Exactly.
And plus, nurse practitioners have lots of patients. They can go to different hospitals, clinics, and they have patients all day. A CRNA has one patient at a time. Once I clock out, that's it. Don't call me about anything.
Right?
That's it. And to me, CRNA school was more interesting. Like the medications, putting people to sleep and waking them up, like that sweet line between life and death. It's just very, to me, it's just exercise for the brain. It just keeps you going. And I also have a video about that on my channel. It goes more into detail. But that's why I chose CRNA over nurse practitioner. So now we're going to talk about, let's discuss the roles. What is the role of anesthesiologist compared to, and then I'll talk about the role of a CRNA.
I honestly don't know if there is a huge difference from my understanding from what I'm experiencing now in the OR as an anesthesia resident. The primary role of the anesthesiologist is to provide anesthetic care to the patient. And for my followers who don't know what that means, pretty much provide medical management to a patient when they are sedated, unconscious, and paralyzed, which means they are not able to breathe for themselves. They don't think for themselves. They can't move. They can't, close their eye to protect their eyes. So the anesthesiologist does all of that along with the help of medications and the ventilator to make sure the patient stays safe during surgery. So that is the main role of the anesthesiologist. And you also have to include the pre-op evaluation, making sure the patient is safe to undergo surgery in the first place, and what management do you need to include to make sure that whatever current conditions they have, you're able to manage those throughout surgery. And then also post-operative care, making sure the patient wakes up safely, nothing went wrong, any follow-up labs or imaging or whatever. until it's time for the patient to move on to the next stage of care.
Absolutely. That's the same role that we have as well. We do a pre-op assessment, plan of care, medical history, plan for intra-op, what kind of medications, depending on the surgery, depending on the patient's medical history. Can you even take certain medications?
Exactly. Yeah.
Letting the patient know, okay, before surgery, don't take this medication. After surgery, wait a certain amount of time before doing this. Pain management. So I feel like we have the same role. For the most part, our profession is anesthesia, caring for the patient before, during, and after, and educating the patient and the family on what is happening throughout each process. So very similar roles. So it can be a bit confusing sometimes, but very, very similar.
Very similar.
Can you talk about a typical clinical day?
A typical clinical day would look like this. So basically, I would wake up around 5 a.m. I have a child, so I have to consider in time for that. But I get to work about 6:30 a.m. First thing I do is double check the surgery board to make sure the assignment that I received the night before is still the same. It's the same case, the same patient, and in the same operating room. Once I do that, then I will go and see the patient, pretty much go over everything that Ms. Portia just said about the history, medical history, making sure that the plan that I have set is the plan that is going to actually happen. And I have to run things over with the attending physician, the anesthesiologist, to make sure that he or she signs off on what I want to do, or if I need to change any of my management. Because again, residency is a training program, which means I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning, right? So I have to include that in a part of my clinical day, which is running things by the anesthesiologist. Most cases in my hospital start at 7:30, so I have to be ready to roll back to the OR around that time. And in between seeing the patient and rolling back to the OR, I have to go to the OR to get everything set up. And setup usually includes your machines, making sure you have gas ready and available, making sure your machine works, everything that you need for the airway, because again, the machine breathes for the patient. So we have to put things into the patient to make sure they receive that oxygen. So having your airway stuff ready, having your medications ready, and having any other emergency things that you may need. If a patient all of a sudden becomes hypotensive, which is low blood pressure, they may need IV fluids as quick as possible. So making sure we have IVs ready to go. And if the patient doesn't have an IV, I have an IV kit ready to go to place an IV. So there's a lot of preparation, and you pretty much do that over and over and over throughout the day for different patients until it's time for you to go. And in residency, we usually have a schedule where we have a pre-call day, which you get off around 3 p.m. at the latest, hopefully, a regular day where you get off at 5, a post-call day where you're off because you've been on call the day before, and then a late call day where you stay until 7 p.m. So it would be maybe an average of 3 to 5 or 6 cases throughout the day.
Okay. So a typical clinical day for an SRNA, same thing. You have to usually get your cases booked the day before. So you go in that morning. Depending on which hospital, you also have to do a pre-op assessment before as well. So you go in and you make sure that, well, depending on your preceptor, you have to come up with a plan of care, anesthesia plan the night before for each patient. And you go in and you see the chart, you compare the schedule to what you have. Same thing as Shonna said, you have to do your machine check, make sure your medications are there, make sure there aren't, the seals aren't broken on medications, you have your needles. I'm not OCD, but I like to label stuff. So make sure you have your pens to label everything, make sure you have all the equipment. And the thing about anesthesia is some hospitals have different anesthesia machines, each per room. So you have to know how to work all the machines.
I have three different machines at our hospital.
Oh, wow.
It is annoying when you learn. Yeah.
It's like you find your precepts, you go over your plan, and you pretty much, depending on what stage you're in. So for SRNA, so the longer we do clinical, by the time we graduate, we should be working independently, meaning that our preceptors should be able to not be standing over us for our cases. That is the goal for clinicals for us. So pretty much the same thing again.
Yeah, right?
Same thing. Okay, so speaking of school, can you do like a quick rundown of if someone wanted to go into medical school to do anesthesia, how would they go about doing that?
So, and I just want to like say this first, because I get this question so much. There's no particular undergraduate major that you need to pursue in order to become any specific type of doctor. If you want to be a doctor in general, whether it's family medicine, surgeon, anesthesia, dermatologist, it doesn't matter what it is, you can major in anything in college. There's nothing that says if I major in this in college, it's going to set me up for anesthesia or it's going to set me up for surgery. That is not a real thing. I don't know where people got that from, okay? So to become a doctor, you have to get a bachelor's degree. Well, to be technical, all you need is 90 credits to get accepted into medical school. But because of how competitive it is, most people apply with a degree. You have to be like a freaking genius to be able to get into med school with only 90 credits. But anyway, you can do it. So you go to college, you get a 4-year degree, and then you apply to medical school. Again, you can have any major that you want. The most main common requirements, whatever you want to call it, be sure to have a GPA that is competitive. Most people say at least a 3.5. That's what I say if you're considering both DO schools and MD schools. If you don't know the difference between MD and DO, I have a video that you can check out that kind of compares the two. But traditionally, DO schools are known for having less competitive admission requirements. So I say aim for smack dead in the middle. A 3.5 can get you into an MD school and definitely get you into a DO school. Also, the big scare factor is the MCAT. It is the medical college admissions test. All professional programs require some type of entrance exam for medical school. It's the MCAT. The average right now is a 511, and that's the average amongst all applicants. But a lot of my followers, subscribers are minorities, so I do talk about the average MCAT scores for minorities. So check out that video if you want to know what that is. But obviously having a good GPA, a good MCAT score, strong letters of recommendation, any type of clinical experience you can get. And if you can't get clinical experience, regular work experience is good too, okay? You just need to emphasize that and have your teamwork, leadership, character, whatever you want to call it. All of that is good, okay? So that's pretty much how you get to med school.
Okay, good. So CRNA requirements is a little bit different. So you have to have your BSN, the Bachelor in Nursing of Science, and then you have to do at least a year in an ICU. The ICU experience all depends on the school. Some schools prefer 2 years, some will take 1 year. Some schools will not take PD ICU and others will. So whatever school you're interested in, you have to see what they will take. But you do a year in the ICU at the least. And that is your time to get used to the medications that we give, titrating the medications and assessing your patients on those medications. Overall, GPA used to be a thing. Like whenever I first started to apply, I just kept hearing about a 3.7, 3.8. And so that discouraged me for a while, but I always had a strong chemistry and bio background. So I applied anyway. I have a master's in a different field too. So the GPA requirement overall isn't as strong as it used to be, as long as you have a well-rounded application, but you must have a strong chemistry and bio background. And strong, I mean, mainly A's, okay? And some schools require GRE and others don't. So that's pretty much the requirement for CRNA school. And also shadowing. You have to shadow a CRNA and or anesthesiologist at least 20 hours before applying to CRNA school.
I'm glad you brought those last 2 points because I want to make emphasis on when becoming or trying to go to med school to become a doctor, shadowing is not required. You don't even have to have clinical experience. If you are able to flex on other parts of your resume, other things you participated in or whatever, they'll take that. They want to see a well-rounded applicant. But if you have the opportunity to shadow, if you can get clinical experience as a scribe or volunteering or something in a hospital or a clinic, do it. It just makes you look better. And then also, med schools do not look at particular grades for your science courses. You do have to have at least a C average in all of your science and math courses, but you don't have to make A's. They're not gonna look at your transcript and be like, oh, she got C in chemistry. We ain't taking her. You know what I mean? They're just going to look at your overall science GPA and your overall GPA and make sure you pass all of your science courses. But when science background is important for the MCAT. So a lot of people stress doing well in your science courses for your own personal gain and your own personal benefit for the MCAT. So that is what the Science Foundation is stressed about for pre-med students. And then obviously you want to be able to survive in med school. So you want to know a little bit about chemistry and physics and biology and stuff before you get to med school. So I just want to make sure. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so whenever you graduate, whenever you're done with your residency, do you have any idea of how many clinical hours you will have total as far as it goes towards the profession of anesthesia, or you guys don't keep track of those hours?
So it's not so ACGME is the organization that sponsors residency programs, and they do have requirements of how many hours of patient care we are supposed to reach. Most residency programs and most institutions take full advantage of residents. So we will not have a problem meeting those hours, right? Because we're gonna work until we can't work no more. And it's more so focused on procedures and the numbers of intubations, art lines, blah, blah, blah. So we focus more on making sure we have those standards met, and then also making sure we don't work over 80 hours per week, average over 4 weeks. Yeah. So if we worked up to 80 hours, actually I don't have a calculator with me, I'm using my phone, but if we worked up to 80 times 48 is the max you would get in 1 year legally. And then you also have to consider that does not include your personal study time for your exams. So take that number, divide that by 4, or multiply that by 4, and that's what your typical resident period, typical number of hours that a resident would have within a 4-year span.
Okay. So do you guys...
I'm sorry, y'all. This is a perfect example. How good do you have to be in math to be an anesthesiologist? Not that damn good, obviously, because I can't do it. Let's see, 8 times 48, I don't know, right? So, yeah, I ain't that good. So.
It's all good, though. So whenever you're done with everything, whenever you're done with your residency and you're practicing independently, how many years total will it be for you?
If I decide not to do a fellowship, it's 12 years. I was super traditional. I didn't have any dual credit classes in high school. I didn't take any AP classes in high school and test out to get college credit. When I started college as a freshman, I was literally a brand new freshman with 0 credits. So it took me the whole 4 years to finish college. And then med school is going to be 4 years, period, if you don't pursue any dual degree programs while in med school. If you do any dual degree programs, then you're looking at 5 to 7 years in med school. And then anesthesia at a minimum is 4 years as well. So 4 for undergrad, 4 for med school, and then 4 years for anesthesia residency. So 12 total. If I do a fellowship, it'll be 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So for CRNA, CRNA, you have your 4 years, your BSN. Some people do their ADN first, do your BSN, then you do your graduate program. So CRNA is broken down into an MSN or a doctoral program. MSN program is 24 or 28 months, and a doctoral program is anywhere from 34 to 36 months. So you have a DNP, which is your Doctor of Nurse Practitioner. Then you have a DNAP, which is your Doctor of Nurse Anesthesia Practice. They both are terminal degrees, which means once you complete it, you're done. No more degrees after that. However, their focus is a tad bit different. So your DNP they have more credit hours with courses that focus on the nursing as a whole, leadership and foundations and improvement. Whereas your DNAP focuses mainly on anesthesia, how to improve anesthesia qualities or your leadership qualities in anesthesia. But we both sit for the same boards. We both have the same amount of clinical hours, and we both pretty much are trained the exact same way to do the exact same thing. It just depends, just a name change. So I'm in a DNAP program, so most of my courses are all anesthesia based. I think I have 3 courses that doesn't involve anesthesia, but the rest are all anesthesia based. And then you have your MSN, which is a Master of Nursing Science. MSN typically graduate with about 2,000 clinical hours. And also, we also have to meet certain A-line and IV and intubation numbers. And your doctoral programs will graduate with about 2,500 to 3,000 clinical hours. And also meeting the requirements for the A-lines and intubations and stuff like that.
For the DNP or DNAP, one thing that I've found during my research is that one of the big differences is that the DNP programs are sponsored, or they are through a school of nursing or nursing school. And the DNAP programs are through just a health science profession school, or how does that work, or is there even a difference? That's just something that I read.
For example, FIU, their whole nursing program, if you go to their website, they sponsor all of their nursing degrees in the same place. So they have a DNP. Whereas in my school, we have a separate school for nursing and a separate school for anesthesia.
Exactly. Okay.
But it's still the same preference. It's really just based on what school you want to go to, and if that school has a DNP or DNAP.
Or DNP, right?
Right.
That's how I felt MDDO. It was kind of like, well, I want to stay in Houston, so it is.
Right. And some people will say, oh, well, you can't be a professor if you do a DNAP. That's not true. You can still be a professor and do a DNAP because it's a doctoral degree. It's just the arrangement of letters, pretty much. So,
well, I also read that DNP students are more research based.
You can say that. I mean, we both have evidence-based research courses, but like I said, they have more geared towards nursing as a whole. They look at the entire picture, where we just take out anesthesia nursing and we focus on that part.
So if you guys became a professor, would you still be able to teach in a nursing as a whole, or would it have to be DNAP specific versus a DNP who could teach anesthesia, they could teach, whatever, OB-GYN or neurology, or the different areas for NPs?
Now, that's a good question. I'm not really sure, but based on what I've seen, my professors are DNAPs. And when I was in nursing school, they were DNPs. So that could be, there could be a difference there. A DNAP may not be able to go teach an undergrad nursing course at a school. So let's see. So you want to talk about what your career plans are once you get done with residency? Are you planning to do like your own business? Are you gonna do pain management?
Yeah. So my career plans are a little different than most doctors. People are my passion, and it does not have to be through medicine alone. I want to reach people in general, not just sick patients. My actual plans are to work part-time anesthesia while I pursue other entrepreneurship opportunities. I'm low-key thinking about going to law school because I think I want to be a lawyer as well. Currently in the process of starting a nonprofit organization, and then also setting up a mentorship program for minority but disadvantaged students in general who were like me and who never thought that they could get to this point, and who are interested in any healthcare field, because I feel like, especially when it comes to the African American community, we are not exposed or taught a lot about the opportunities that exist in the healthcare field. Whether you want to get your bachelor's, master's, or doctor's, there are a lot of options out there, and it's also not stressed in our community to aim for those type of goals. And so I want to use my influence and my platform to help other students who are coming up through high school or in college, and just really don't have a mentor, don't know what to do, don't know where to go. And I honestly plan on turning that into a business of some sort, to where I won't have to work full-time anesthesia, and I'll be able to pursue my, medical goals or whatever, or interests, and then also be able to actually make real change in people's lives that I come in contact with. So that's my thing.
That's awesome.
Thank you. What about you?
I'm glad you mentioned the thing about us, a Black community, not being directed towards certain types of professions, because for me it was the same thing. I was like, well, I don't see any Black CRNAs, but you have to go find them. And so that's what I did. I got on social media, I got on Instagram. Then I found there's this great community called Diversity CRNA. It was started by a Black CRNA. She goes to campuses around the country and teaching Black nurses about anesthesia, and we do workshops. It's awesome. It's called Diversity CRNA Mentorship, so you guys should check it out.
Yeah.
I went to that event, girl. I was like, what? I mean, just Blackness all around.
Changed your life, huh?
Yes, I was like, yep, I'm doing this. I'm going for it. It was awesome. And so that brings me into career plans. So for a CRNA, you can do, depending on your state, you can do independent or work under someone. If you're in an independent state, you can start your own clinic, your pain management clinic. I've seen people do ketamine clinics. So the options are there. For me, because I've been in school all my life as well, I just want to work. So my plan is to work my plan is to work I want to do give my 3 days a week, give my 2 days a week, and just let me be for the rest of the week. So CRNA, you can't work in a hospital in an OR setting, working 12s or 10s, however the hospital does it. Some hospitals do 24-hour shifts. You do 2 of those a week, I think. You sleep at the hospital and you work during the 12 hours during the day. You can do an outpatient clinic, like a plastics clinic. You can work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I ain't about that life. I don't want to do that. Or like I said, you can open up your own business. But for me, I want to do a hospital OR. Hospital is all that I know. It's what I'm comfortable with right now. It's what I know. So yeah, that's the plan for that. So right now in the profession, there's this unspoken situation, call it politics, as concern the independence versus the dependence of CRNAs. Should we work by ourselves? Are we confident enough for that, skill-wise? Or should we work in what we call a care team? So under a care team, you have your anesthesiologist, who's your attending, who's over the entire team. And under that person works several CRNAs, depending on your state. There could be AAs. So AAs are your anesthesiology assistants. So not all states recognize AAs. I think it may be 15 states or so that recognize that profession. CRNAs, however, is recognized everywhere in this country, but we're able to work independently in all states. And when I say independently, that means I go in and I'm my own boss, pretty much. I don't have to answer to anyone else. Versus a care team, then I have someone over me who can direct me on a plan of care, who can step in whenever I'm having issues, or who can just be someone to bounce ideas off of. Some people feel as though CRNAs should not be independent because of our clinical hours aren't as much as the medical doctors, or maybe because we don't have as much schooling. Whereas then other people would love for us to be independent because it gives us more of a range to reach more people. As far as I'm concerned, I could go either way. If you want to be independent, go to the independent states. If you doesn't matter to you, then you can work wherever you would like. My advice would be just to be in a place where you feel like you're part of a team and not an outcast on a team. So that's something to be aware of whenever you go into anesthesia, whether it's on the medical doctor side or on the CRNA side.
Yeah. I appreciate your answer, and I honestly don't have too much to say outside of that because I'm not a CRNA nor an anesthesiologist or an attending. I'm a resident, so I'm kind of like in the middle, and I do get a bird's eye view of both sides. And at my hospital, we actually only have one anesthesia assistant, and the rest are CRNAs or anesthesiology residents or anesthesiology attendings. And I'll just speak on the anesthesia care team that I experienced at my hospital. We don't have a lot of anesthesiologists that are, let's say, laid back and kind of like understanding and like not total arrogant a-holes. But, and I'm not gonna say what hospital I work at because I ain't trying to get no
right.
All up in my comments and whatnot, trying to get you fired. But anyway, that's just doctor culture in general. In my experience, I've had more experience with arrogant doctors versus, the more calm and laid back, and they're not trying to like shove their credentials down your face, right? So from what I experienced, most of the doctors are they take more of the leadership role. They take it further than what it really has to be, instead of allowing the anesthesiologist and the CRNA to work together to come up with a plan, or respecting the plan of the CRNA. Sometimes the plan of the CRNA kind of gets overlooked, and they just end up doing what the anesthesiologist wants to do. And I experienced that too as a resident. Like sometimes what we want to do as residents, we don't get to do because the anesthesiologist isn't kind of being a team player. They're being the boss. And that's just my experience. But in a lot of places, it is a anesthesia care team, and you do work with doctors who are, laid back, and they respect the thought process and decision making of the resident or the CRNA. And it is a collaboration, and you do work alongside each other. And the CRNA's plan of care is respected, the resident's plan of care is respected, and you come to a mutual agreement of what is the best management for the patient. Because at the end of the day, that's all it's about.
Right.
Is safety for the patient and making sure they get what they need, and they come out of the operation with all 10 toes, all 10 fingers, and they can think, right, and they wake up. So I'm just putting it into simple terms, but it really just depends, like she said, your location, where you practice, and the model that they have. Same for the CRNAs at my hospital. And so the CRNAs at UT, they're 100% trusted. The doctors are a lot laid back. They're like, hey, yeah, go do your thing, push the name. Mm-hmm. I trust you. I know you can do it or whatever. But if anybody's in the comments watching this video, if you comment below, if you're a CRNA or a student in a state that allows independent practice, please include your experience or your take on all of that.
Right, because everybody has a different opinion. Every hospital is different. Just like Shonna said, when I was at University of Miami and I did my shadowing, the attendings were very like, okay, do what you have to do. But I've heard stories of other CRNAs experience totally different situations with their patient care team. I have not been in clinicals yet, so what I have is based on my shadowing experience and based on what I've talked with other CRNAs.
For the most part, you're either going to go into private practice or academics. Private practice physicians do make more money than physicians who choose to go into academics. And when I say academics, I mean you work with residents. You work with a residency program, and you train and you teach. And so you do typically take a pay cut when you choose to work with residents. And that's simply because all the residents they're doing your job, right? So we're training, we're doing your job, and you're just watching. That's not why you take a pay cut, but you should be okay with a pay cut because you ain't doing it, But anyway, and I don't mean to say it like that. Anesthesiologists are doing something, but they're not doing a lot of the hands-on work that the residents and the CRNAs have to do. But if you go into private practice, it may be the same situation. You still may work with CRNAs and AAs who do a lot of the hands-on work, or you may be the only person on the anesthesia care team for that day, and you're doing all the work yourself. So, but typically your pay reflects that factor that you do it all yourself. And for the most part, that's really how it goes with anesthesia. You can only give anesthesia in certain places, right? But if you choose to go into pain, acute pain or chronic pain, like Portia said, you do have other options as far as having clinics and stuff. But for the most part, most anesthesia care is delivered in a hospital setting, and you're either going to work through a private practice group that pays you private practice salary, or you're going to work through a academic institution as a what do you call it, attending, or whatever you want to call it, working with residents.
All right, cool. That there are more similarities between us than differences. So it's understandable why you get confused between what we do. But anesthesia is anesthesia, so it just depends on what route you want to take.
Exactly, and if you haven't checked out my previous video where I talked about just kind of giving an overview of comparing CRNAs and anesthesiologists, you can check that video out. But in that video, I say that the only main difference is that if you want to be called doctor, literally, and honestly, CRNAs they're on their way to being required to having their doctor's degree anyway. So they're gonna have doctor in front of their name, and that's happening now. You know, that whole transition is happening now. So if you want to be a medical doctor, if you want to be a physician, then you need to go to med school and become an anesthesiologist. If that's not important to you, if title's not important to you, and wearing a white coat and having that type of respect or whatever, if you don't care about that crap, I understand. But I would definitely consider going to CRNA school, because the work in which you do is the same.
Yeah.
Now, the level of education, the level of clinical hours, blah, 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 that is different, you know, and it depends on the person. So, to do another collab video that compares the fields in different areas that we didn't talk about, like salary or whatever you want to call it, or maybe go into detail about some things, because it's very detailed. Both journeys are detailed, okay? And we try to keep it simple for you guys, but if y'all have any requests, just let us know, and I'm open to doing it again. I think it's necessary, right. And I'd rather have a CRNA or SRNA to give that perspective to a lot of my subscribers who want to go into anesthesia, but they might not want to be a doctor, right? So.
Right, perfect.
All right, you guys, that was a video. Sorry about the quality. It may not be that great. I did it on Zoom. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any questions, you want us to do a part 2 or part 3 or whatever the case may be, just let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys later. Bye.